Hey, hey, hey. Hello, everyone. So, going live again today. I'll be going live throughout this month. So, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and you click the bell so you don't miss out. Today, we are going to be talking about overcoming rejection. And I'm super excited about this. If you think that you may be dealing with rejection, definitely grab a pen, grab a paper, take some notes. I will be sharing about rejection in detail, and I know it'll be so helpful for you, okay? So as you come in, go ahead, drop your name down in the comments. Let me know where you're from in the world. That way I can just say, hey, okay? So again, today we're talking about overcoming rejection. And I just want to start by really just saying that at the end of the day, we have to know within ourselves that God has chosen us, God accepts us, and that our experiences do not define who we are, okay? When it comes to rejection, it's so important that we remind ourselves of that, okay? So let me start with like a little story, okay? If you're watching this and you absolutely hate bugs, let me know in the comments, okay? That's me. I definitely hate bugs, okay? I love nature, but I hate the bugs. And as long as like the bugs in nature are in their little zone and they're not in my personal space, then we're good. But every now and then, you get like that occasional house spider and you're like, what the heck, right? Like, I hate bugs. So I have like a fear almost attached to it. Like, if the spider ends up getting lost in the house and I can't find it, like, I'm thinking of all of the worst case scenarios. Like, oh my God, it's going to crawl on my face while I'm sleeping. Can anybody relate to that? Okay. Let me know in the comments if that's you too. At the end of the day, I realized that my issue with hating bugs, like that fear of bugs, is similar to rejection. It's similar to the fear of rejection because my fear of bugs is based on perspective. Your you dealing with rejection is based on your perspective. It's how you are seeing things, okay? And just like I have to be able to deal with the occasional house spider or, a bug outside in my space, we all have to be able to deal with rejection too. Why? Because everyone is not going to accept us. Even Jesus was rejected, right? Every job isn't going to say, yes, we'll hire you, we'll do it. That's not going to happen. Rejection is a part of life. So we have to be able to deal with rejection and see things clearly. So this is why today we're going to talk about overcoming the fear of rejection. And I want to give you some steps as well as like why it's important that we actually deal with rejection and we don't just like isolate ourselves and not have relationships, okay? So to those of you who are wondering like, am I actually dealing with rejection? Like, how do I know? Here are some signs you're dealing with rejection. One, you're concerned about fitting in. Like, what will people say? What will they think? To the point where it's hard to just be you, right? It's normal to, want to have a good impression, that type of thing. But with rejection, you are like overly concerned about it to a point where you can't show up as yourself. Okay. Two, you believe that you don't fit in. A lot of the times I've heard like you're a black sheep, or like people agree with the fact that, oh, I'm just different. Like I'll never exactly fit in, I'm a lone wolf, things like that. A lot of the times that comes with rejection, you guys. Let me know below in the comments if you have ever identified with those terms, like I'm a black sheep or I'm a loner, that type of thing. So 3, another sign that you are dealing with rejection is you end up being triggered and offended easily, okay? A good way to tell if that applies to you is you always feel like it's always somebody else's fault. Like they're always doing something to you. It's never you in the wrong, okay? Another sign of rejection is a history of burned bridges. If you look throughout your life, you will always see a history of burned bridges, okay? Because rejection comes with you self-sabotaging your relationships. Like it can be a healthy relationship, but your rejection is going to make you see a different perspective. So you end up sabotaging a healthy relationship. So multiple burned bridges, okay? A lack of self-confidence, self-worth, and self-love is also a sign. And it's like that negative inner critic voice, right? Like we're always hard on ourselves. It causes us to feel a lot of shame, condemnation, that type of thing. And then another sign is a lot of the times people who struggle with rejection struggle with self-rejection as well. They end up rejecting themselves, whether that's through people pleasing, compromising, not being their true self, that type of thing. And then a key point of rejection is isolating. A lot of the times, even though we desire those healthy relationships, we end up isolating ourselves. Like we almost like hate being around people when you're dealing with rejection, okay? A lot of the times this is that whole notion of like, oh, I'm an introverted, but like deep down inside, you want healthy relationships, okay? So I know that you desire healthy relationships where you fit in and you can actually be yourself. Like you can show up as yourself. You don't have to think about what somebody's going to say, what they're going to think. You don't have to think about that. You can just be you. You desire that. You desire to have people that support you, and you honestly, you want to break the cycle. You don't want to keep going through this cycle of feeling like you're not accepted when it comes to other people, okay? So people end up experiencing the fear of rejection because of this, you guys. Because of this, people end up experiencing the fear of rejection because we allow our experiences to define who we are. And we hold on to the idea that this rejection is just going to repeat itself over and over again, that it's going to be a cycle, okay? And a lot of the times, rejection can be traced all the way from childhood. So if you look over your life, you will see that rejection was there, okay? Here's the thing. Just because you experience rejection or just because someone rejected you doesn't mean that you are rejection. It doesn't mean that like your whole being, like your name, who you are, is rejected. That's not true. An experience doesn't define who you are. But when we get like that stronghold, because rejection is honestly a spirit attached to it, okay? And once you get that like stronghold, that mental grip, that like, oh, it's something about me that people aren't accepting. It's something about me. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not enough. That inner critic voice. When you start believing that type of ideology or scenario, You end up defining yourself by rejection, and you are not rejection. When your thoughts, your emotions, and your experiences try to tell you that you are rejected, it's up to you to talk back, to speak the truth to yourself. That is one strategy of really getting rid of rejection. You have to talk back to that self inner critic, really the enemy trying to get in, okay? And a lot of the times we're thinking like, okay, so to avoid rejection, I have to try to fit in. I have to try to change myself. I have to try to make them like me, right? Like that is what a rejection mindset will have you thinking. Like, in order to avoid rejection, I need to change myself. I need to adapt. Let me know in the comments if that's been you. If you've been feeling like, yeah, in every relationship I've had, I've adapted, I've changed myself because I was fearful of being rejected. And I thought that that would change it. But you guys, it doesn't change it. You biting your tongue, you like holding your ideas, you compromising, it doesn't change it. Matter of fact, a lot of the times when we do that, we end up getting rejected because it's hard to deal with like the double mindedness of it all. Because at the end of the day, if you've ever been someone that like holds stuff in, like you're not being truthful, eventually it's going to come out, right? So it's very hard to deal with that. And we end up sabotaging the relationship. When if we would have been authentic, then maybe they would have liked us. Maybe it would have worked out. Okay. So you changing yourself, that is not what prevents rejection. It causes you to blend in and hide who you truly are. It causes you to not show up as the person that God created you to be. Your authenticity is so important in living out the abundant life that God has for you, okay? So this causes you to break down and get overloaded because you're not living in truth and you're trying to guess what they think. I have a video where I've talked about this, but a lot of the times rejection comes with mind reading. You're like making assumptions, you're guessing what someone is thinking, and you really don't know, but you're trying to guess what they think, what they want, and what they'll think of a scenario, how they'll see things, and it leads to double-mindedness. One day you're putting on a smile and you're blending in and you're happy and you're going with the flow, and then out of nowhere you're like blowing up because the truth that's inside of you, all of that compromising, all of that stuff that you were holding back, that ends up coming out eventually, okay? Hi, Corey. So, to truly deal with and overcome the fear of rejection, you have to do these things, okay? Take it to God and be honest with your struggles. Be honest with where you are. Because if you are pretending that you're good, if you're not going to Him and, just laying down everything, He can't help you. You have to actively get Him to step in the situation with you, okay? Another thing you can do is find scriptures and bind up fear and rejection, okay? It says that perfect love casts out fear. So find scriptures on love. Find scriptures on how God loves you, how He chose you, how He accepts you, how He'll never leave nor forsake you. Find scriptures rooted in love and your identity, and speak those things to yourself. Meditate on them over and over again, because it's the thing that you meditate on the most that's going to come up, okay? It's the thing that you meditate on the most that's going to get you to react in the long run, okay, and form like a habit. So find scriptures and bind up the spirit of fear and rejection and loose God's love over yourself. Declare what God says about you over yourself. Like make some biblical affirmations and speak against the things that that inner critic is trying to tell you. Okay. And then, of course, you have to do the inner work, okay? We all knew that was coming if you follow this channel. We're all about faith and inner work, but do the inner work by letting God reveal the areas that you need to work on and then taking that to create change within, okay? Inner work for rejection, it looked like for me, self-awareness, getting used to like patterns and things like that. Um, I realized that like even as a child, I was struggling with the same issues and I never saw the connection between what I was experiencing right then and my past. But it's important that you draw the line between that so that you can see the patterns, so you can be more self-aware of like, how is rejection coming up? How does the enemy trip me up in my thoughts? Like, what are some of the common things that he's saying? That way, you know how to pray, you know what scripture to get, and so forth. Okay. One writing activity that I'll share with you all is looking at your past, present, and future, or like where you want to be. So for the past, you can break it up in sections like child, teen, adult. And what I did is I wrote down who I was at that time, what my struggles were, what my needs were, and what my strengths were, okay? And then in the next section for the present, what I did is I wrote the same things, okay? So, okay, what am I struggling with? What are my needs? What are my strengths? And then for the future, who did I want to be? Or who does God say I am, right? And then from there, you're able to really see the patterns. You're able to see what doesn't line up and what you need to work on, okay? So that's one journal prompt that I did. I do love journaling. I recommend journaling, doing the brain dumps and everything like that, because it really helps you practice self-awareness and be aware of what's going on with you. And with one-on-one coaching, I go over this in way more detail, but learning the process of your soul, that thoughts lead to emotions and emotions lead to actions. And if you can practice self-awareness to tune into that, it really helps you break things off your life. It really helps you know, and that ain't right. Let me attack that right now. Let me close the door to that. So I encourage you to really pay attention, to practice self-awareness and sit with God, sit with his word, and actively pray and bind up stuff. Don't just let it sit there and settle. God is a healer, a revealer, a teacher, a counselor. He's all of those things, okay? So essentially, inner work, it helps you get wisdom and strategies so you can fight against things effectively, okay? So without inner work, I found that when I was struggling with rejection, I was coming from a place of like begging or like forgive me, and that wasn't the issue. So once you focus on inner work, you're really able to actually pray effectively. You're able to see clearly. So I do encourage inner work for real, okay? Inner work will help you dig. So to get to the root of things, just ask God questions, get specific, and do the work to deal with the areas that he's showing you, okay? Some of the things is, how does rejection show up in your body? I had to get familiar with what it felt like so then I could say no to that urge or like the behavior that that feeling normally makes me do. So that's a great strategy as well. Some things you can pray like one time and it's good, but I found that with rejection, it wasn't a one-time prayer. Like I prayed and then I had to stand on it and keep praying the word, keep attacking it, that type of thing. So some things do require like a process. And I talked about that yesterday as well. If you want to watch the replay on that after this. But let me know if you have any questions below in regards to overcoming the fear of rejection. I hope that this like helped a lot, just knowing the signs, knowing how to actually attack it and deal with it. Because if you don't deal with rejection, you can't really be the authentic version of yourself. In my experience, honestly, you don't even know who you really are because you're not being free. Like you're not familiar with, okay, if I'm living for everybody else, I'm thinking what they want me to do or what I think they want me to do, then how do I know what I really want? How do I know what I really like? Okay, so it's so important that you really deal with rejection. Okay, I hope this was enlightening and it encouraged you. You can actually be free from the fear of rejection. God is for you. He is not against you. Okay. Until next time.